the world come to a standstill, and we had enough time to just sit down and talk and, have good conversations and ask lots of questions. But having a background playing professional basketball, it was really hard for me to just first understand what this space means. And he just said, like, take your time, ask questions, and these people are like a lot more welcoming and helpful than you'd think. It's not sports, people are actually trying to help you here. So that was like a really, really good intro to me to the space, to understand how it moves, and just the absolute basics, with the whole decentralization aspect of it, and then how helpful this can be moving forward as the technology progresses even further. But yeah, we've been stuck together essentially at the hip like this for 2 years now in Australia during the pandemic. So I guess I'll let Rae talk, but yeah, she kind of started by watching me sit on Zoom all day.
Pretty much, yeah. What?
Yeah, you can go.
I know that Rae has a background in modeling, which I think is really interesting, given that she is the subject of the photographs. I don't know if there's anything aside from that as an introduction that you'd like to share with the community.
No, it's cool. Having worked as a model for the past 7 years of my life, doing a project like this where I get to be part of the creative and get to be behind the photos rather than just the face in front of it, it's been I don't know, it's been really empowering, just being able to to present myself in a different light and be able to present things that I believe in. And yeah,
I think one of the really interesting things actually on the website here, and I'll post that in the Discord chat for everybody who is not already on the site, and we were talking about this during Marvel's stream earlier today, that we were scrolling through the site and how it just like flips through the photos. But one of the things that it shows is that, these are not airbrushed. There's, they're just the raw photos, and being able to embrace yourself as you are without having those airbrushing in the edits. And that, I feel like, is probably a very empowering, but also maybe a scary thing to have that so much vulnerability.
It was so scary. It was actually like such a hard project to do. I'm so used to having a team around me, hair, makeup, you work on your poses, you can see the images as they come through, but working on this project, it was a more of the in the moment type of shoot. So of course there's no hair, there's no makeup, you just have to embrace, maybe I'm having a pimple day, maybe I'm having a bad hair day. You just have to accept that this is how I look. It's still beautiful, it's still who I am, and doesn't change my self-worth or anything. But yeah, it's something I really, really like about the project as well.
And that is so amazing. And so that's, kind of one of the things on the website where, Rae was the inspiration for the project, but it notes that it's about learning to love and appreciate and evolve, with who you are as a person, kind of as humanity. And having that, Matthew, I think that maybe as the photographer, the one like capturing these images, that must be an interesting perspective, because here you are, with your partner capturing things that perhaps she doesn't see about herself and revealing truths that exist, but from an entirely different viewpoint. How has that creative process worked?
I think it was really like it was a growth period for us for sure in our relationship to just take away everything that we've kind of learned from our respective industries and just be like, let's put ourselves into this project. It's a completely different space, and it's almost like a new first impression. And I think, as we started, it was very confronting, because when you look at when I look at photos of Rae for her work, it doesn't look like her. And then when I take photos of her for this project, she's like, well, I've never seen myself shot in that way, because it's not airbrushed and photoshopped and, colored and all these type of things. So it was it was definitely a lot of conversations, and not frustrations, but just deep conversations about, the project and the impact that this has, and that understanding that it's going to be hard for us to do. And that's a good thing. It's not meant to be picking our 100 best ever glammed up photos and making a project. This is hopefully allowing other people to just be happy with who they are, and I think that's why I try to use a very diverse range of lenses and backdrops and scenes and locations, because people aren't just in a studio or, you know, out and about the whole time. That there are a very different amount of things, and especially during a pandemic where a lot of us are at home. So being able to get creative in our own little, tiny little apartment in Sydney, it was really fun to do something like this. And it's it's powerful to see the images now as the whole 100. I think when you're in it for so long, you don't understand, you know, what this can essentially do for the space, and not just photography, but for beauty in general, and just trying to empower more people to do similar things with their work.
And that's a really interesting thing, as you've described, having those images that perhaps Rae had never seen of herself, because these are, the things that have not been edited and airbrushed. And I know my partner actually gives me a hard time about this, because when we do pictures together, like, I'm very careful about the angle that we're taking them, and like making sure we're getting the lighting, and like very, particular. And then he's like, I'm gonna just take a picture and it's gonna be fine. And I'm like, oh no, like, you need to delete that one. So I imagine that doing it at this scale, like, you there's a lot of trust involved in that process, and kind of that discovery, and as you mentioned, that acceptance of yourself as the image is, and not what it could be. Because being able to embrace the imagery as it is really powerful, and that's something that I think society has conditioned us not to do necessarily. And this is a very powerful thing. Like, that's what struck me as I was looking through and kind of reading this story, and like having the ability to say that it is a good photo, even if it's not been manipulated a bunch.
Yeah, I think I really had to put myself in a vulnerable position here, like, as much. We've been together for 3 years, and I love and I trust Matthew, like, with everything. But when it comes to taking pictures of things that I consider flaws, that was so hard. Definitely had some fights, and had to see each other eye to eye on that level. And ultimately, it is for the better, and it is like to inspire other people to accept themselves as they are. But it's so difficult. Like, yeah.
That is, and it's really interesting too, because we have such a variety. Like, we've seen as we've been scrolling through, and we can look at the rest of the collection too. But there's such a variety of shots. So we have them, in the different spaces, and especially like the water ones are like, that's I think maybe the most intimidating, because like, who knows what's happening as you're swimming about. And that was actually one of the NFTs that I did add to my own collection, was one of the water ones, and we'll pull that up just to take a peek. But like this, like, how do you end up with photos like this? You can get some dolphins and everything. Like, this is an adventure.
This was like such a.
That was fun.
This was so fun. We just were, on the beach in Hawaii, swimming around, and I just lost the camera a few days before. I had a water housing, and water got in it, and I flooded it. And so I had bought a new camera pretty much directly that same day. I was so shattered, another few $1,000s just written off. And then we found this day, and there was a huge pot of dolphins just swimming around the bay. And I was so scared to take my camera out again and potentially lose another one. And yeah, we were just out there all morning, and, just swimming around naturally with these dolphins. And they just kept doing loops around us. And there wasn't many people out. And it was just it was a noisy environment underwater with dolphins, and they're chirping, and they're super noisy. It's not to like a whale decibel level, but like a big pot of dolphins cruising around. And yeah, the light just hit this shot so well, and it's probably one of our favorite ever.
100%.
And it's just, to me, this is like just raw ocean beauty, out in the nature, in the elements. Like you said, you don't know what's going to happen in the ocean. You're in a very vulnerable spot. But growing up on the coastline, in Cairns, Australia, along the Great Barrier Reef, I feel comfortable here. I feel comfortable in the ocean, and Rae being from Puerto Rico as well, it's a nice little balance.
Nice. So I was saying, I grew up like in the Midwest of the U.S., so there's no ocean here. Like, the biggest thing we have are, the lakes, and there are a lot of them, but the ocean seems like it has a lot more going on to play into what you're doing. But you get amazing shots like this where, the water is clear and you have the visibility and you have, the light streaming through, and that, like, capturing things like that, I think is really interesting to juxtapose, like, the humanity and the nature and like how those things actually have a relationship. And so this, being part of that, dolphin pod is like for the whale community. That's why I was like, this is like perfect for us, and showing how everything can be united. That's super awesome. Let's take a peek at the rest of the collection because it's on OpenSea here. Let me link that into the chat as well for the community as we're scrolling through. But as you were creating these photos, I think, maybe if you want to walk us through the story of, some of the backgrounds or what it is that you were feeling in the moment, because you can see a lot of different emotions that are going on. So were specific emotions you're trying to capture? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, of course. I think like the goal of the project, and as you click on a shot, there's like a little story that sits under each one. And the goal was to just try and have as many, raw feelings and things that we can get as possible. And for this one, for example, it's like we get to experience all these beautiful things, mostly in Australia. But for this story, it's like, don't ruin these for other people. Like, don't just come and absolutely trash somewhere to get a nice shot. You can do both. And I think that's a really difficult thing for people to do, especially people who visit some of these beautiful places in Australia, that they come in, they take the photo, but the spot's kind of ruined for everyone else. They can't experience it the same way. So each photo and motion, we try to tell our own story within each individual photo. And there's a huge range of, ups and downs weaved into this. And I think that's what I like to do as someone who likes to tell stories. It's not just 100 of the same things, because that's not life. Life, no 2 days are the same, and it's going to be very up and down emotionally. So we try to really embody that with the storytelling, but also visually. There's some really sad times in here, and there's some really just neutral days at home. There's getting our visa approved. Like, there's just so many different emotions that we try to curate, and taking our time and being patient with this was very important. You can't just shoot all of this in one day because you're not going to get it. So yeah, it's a lot of travel and a lot of places that mean a lot of special things to us. And we just tried to, not take too long on each shot. Let's just try and have our first organic moment and capture that in the spot. And then we just carry on with our day.
That, I think, is a really interesting thing for people who are perhaps aspiring to be photographers, like trying to capture moments and as they are, not manufacture the moments to be what you think they should be. And right. It seems like maybe that's what you've been doing here, which comes out really, really stunning a lot of times, like, because you weren't trying to be anything that you weren't.
And that's what was like, it was a fine balance, because one, we want to take a nice photo, like we understand that part, but two, it's how can we make this day, and especially looking back, I can look at these photos now, I'm like, oh, I remember that day, I remember that mood, the mood is very fitting to what we were feeling on that exact day. And I think that's really important when we look back at this collection, especially, next year, 2 years, 10 years as our original collection. It's like, well, this was a really, really wholesome foundation for us to enter the space. And it was a journey for us to make this together and have so many different emotions that are just, I don't know, some are vulnerability, some are experiences, some are happy, some are obviously really, really sad. There's a crying photo in here. But that's just what we've experienced in our relationship together. It's been a pretty, broad experience, and that comes with the pandemic and all the pretty brutal restrictions we've had, especially here in Australia.
It comes with everyday life, though. Like, that's just what we all go through.
Yes, and I love this one too. Like, it's so fun. We have that
one. It's my favorite.
It's such a good one. There's so much joy and just carefreeness in there. Like you can feel that. Oh my goodness, that's fun. So I'm out of words because it's just like scrolling through these, like it's amazing, as you mentioned, like having, that full spectrum of emotions and not only capturing, the happy moments, because life has all of the ups and downs, and having the expression of all of those things is definitely a very powerful tool, because if you can't express the emotions that you're feeling, you're not going to be able to manage them. And so here, having people be able to relate to the various emotions in your images, I think makes it a much more well-rounded project. There's a lot going on here, and you said there were 100.
I like to picture as like a really realistic Instagram feed. You wouldn't post all of these on Instagram. They're not like the perfect view of your life, but it's just what it is. It's who we are.
Yes. And I think that's important too, because having, especially in the modeling industry, like everything is presented based on a story that you're telling, and it's not necessarily relevant to people's life, but it is a story. So here you're telling the rest of it, the life part of it.
Exactly. It's the parts of it that maybe the modeling industry doesn't really care about, doesn't want to see. It's not the perfect moments.
Yes. These are the moments that everybody else relates to. I think these are honestly the things that would make a lot of the industry more successful if they were able to portray things that people could relate to more. Like that's really like what people like. It really hits a vibe with you, and you can feel it, and you can see yourself in that moment. I flip through magazines. I can't see myself in most of those things, but this I can see myself. And that, I think, has a lot more impact and inspiration for people not only taking pictures, but also people being the subject of those photos. And so this is so
I think you can't be too serious. I think like in such a everyone's under the magnifying glass these days, and how can we have more fun? How can we have more moments and humanizing and normalizing, those in between kind of moments that, it might not make your Instagram feed, but it might be your phone background or something. How can we have a collection that is more broad than that? And it was really, really fun for me, who usually shoots, a very masculine sport in basketball, to then try and unlearn that and shoot purely portraits of, my girlfriend. So it was a pretty big contrast, and for her as well to, not have all the usual comforts of her work, and just trusting me to shoot very, shots that I'm not sure how they'd be perceived in her industry, but it's our project, it's our way, and I think that's what we really love about it.
Well, I think that's the magic of the metaverse, because here we are, and you're coming from two different industries who, photography and both of those have extremely different goals. And now you're able to take those and just go, well, I can use what I want, but most of this I can just do my own thing and find success in that. And that is something that I think is really refreshing. That's a theme that we've seen in a lot of the whale community interviews, that people have been able to take the metaverse and kind of create something that they didn't have the space to do before. And here you are creating a full 365 days of Rae, all of the emotions and the experiences that don't fit in another box, but they don't have to.
Right.
Exactly.
That's so fun. So tell me then, with the 365 days of Rae, we have these pictures and this full collection, which is amazing. And we have motion in this one, which is so fun. Like, that is amazing. But what is next? So we're rolling this out. Is this going to carry on into the next 365 days? Have you planned that yet? Or are you just starting here and seeing where it goes?
You want me to go? Or you? Okay. I think like we don't want to do anything else besides be in this space now, and this is just our foundation to, to what we want to build. We wanted our first project to be something as wholesome as we could make, and that was the first step. Is if we want to be here a long time, when we look back, what was our first project? Did it have any impact? Was it deeper than just, quickly trying to sell out a collection? And we're essentially going to use this project to help other artists and people enter the space and use, funds raised from this to launch other projects for people in the Web3 space in general, whether that's NFTs or other things. But we'll essentially help these people come into our little community and, teach them about the space, teach them how to launch a project, and eliminate that main barrier for people who are, I guess, starting in the space. And I think the main barrier, especially in Australia, is financial. So if we can take that away from people and just let the artists just create, whether that's a business, whether that's an NFT collection, and just be behind them with other committed people, like that's what we want to do with this project, as it will turn into 365 collabs, which is at the end of our roadmap once we sell out. But that's like, we just want to give back. We want to have other people have the same feeling that we've had in this space, and just bring other people along for the journey. And hopefully we can, one day be known as one of the most iconic little startups from Australia, and help a lot of people, especially, more women, more people of color, more people who don't get an opportunity in, mainstream society to come into this space and just be accepted for who they are, and have their art also just be whatever it is. That's another important part with us putting out something so vulnerable. Hopefully it inspires other people to think more broadly than what they feel would be the most successful thing. Like, it's all about just being yourself in this space, and hopefully this project will be the first of many that we can help people roll out through our community.
And that, I think, is really powerful, to be able to help people, and having a platform to do that, having a project that's a launching point. As you mentioned, you have a community. So on the website, there's the contact bit, and this is giving people the resources, whether they're looking for support or collaborations or partnerships. And you also have an email mailing list, and there's a Discord, which I feel like I've lost the link, but it's on the website for certain. It's at the bottom here. I've spent a lot of time scrolling the website. I just lost it. And so they have a Twitter, which if you pull it up, looks like this. And also a Discord. So as in the community here, I'll put a link. And you have a fun landing photo too. So I'll put that link in our Discord, so that way people can join there as well if they're interested in following along the project and kind of seeing, as you mentioned, any type of collaborations, any learning experiences. I know that in our community, the whale community, you do have folks from Australia. So finding people that they can then connect with on a more local level is really important, because a lot of times, and this is something that we've seen in a lot of the projects, and as people are explaining, like a lot of the reason that they've done things is because it's really hard to do something if you don't see people like you doing it. You don't have a role model, and you don't see yourself in that role because it's not been done before. So this is really important to have the both of you building projects like this and providing that launching point for others as well, and having it on a roadmap. So, like, huge kudos to you for thinking about that and trying to help enable people to be more successful. It's, one of the big things about the whale community too. That's our focus, is trying to help people in the Web3 space. So I love being able to find other folks who are doing the same thing. That's really, I think, what it's all about moving into Web3.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And like, that's, I think normalizing a few things as well, like, is a really big goal of mine. All the projects that I've done in the past, it's never been, an instant kind of thing. It takes me years to build things in basketball, and I hope I can normalize that for people who are looking at the space. There's a lot of conceptions, especially here in Australia, that the only projects people are going to get on are just 10,000 piece PFP collections, and they're quickly going to buy one at 0.01, and then it's going to go to 100 ETH, and then, they're going to leave the space. So I think trying to break down some misconceptions, I guess, and just help people understand, like, it takes time to build something special. And it's okay for something to not sell out in a day or a week. And, we really want to help our holders have value, and we don't want our holders to just flip our tokens want them to stay a part of the community. Like our goal is to get 100 really quality people who are holders, not to have a crazy floor. And I think people coming into the space in Australia and spending time in our Discord, it will help them be like, oh, this is a nice place to be. You know, there's no pressure. We've created little educational materials for people to just learn the absolute fundamentals of crypto and Web3s and NFTs. And that's why I love the whale community as well. In the brief time that I've been in there so far, it's very helpful. It's very educational driven. And I think that's what's really important in this space. It's not about trying to find the next thing that's going to the moon. It's about teaching people what this space is and all the potential that it has.
It's definitely getting the foundations, because the odds of your project like launching, as you mentioned, at the 0.01 and going to 100x, like that's really slim odds, and that, you know, is not something that is sustainable for the majority of projects. And for people who are starting out and kind of building their content, and the big thing, you know, is getting that community, getting the people who believe in what you're doing and making those connections, because that is going to have a better long-term, you know, marker of success and better impact on you as a person, because you have that support. You don't just have people who bought your stuff and were flipping it and don't actually believe in you. They could just make a buck. So, you know, I love that you've reiterated that for the community, because that's something that I think we need to hear more in this space, and don't necessarily focus on that because people are so focused on, you know, what could be that big moonshot and not all of the steps in between.
For sure.
Yeah.
So good. I'm so excited about what it is you're doing. And as you mentioned, you have that roadmap too. And this amazing picture behind the roadmap. Like, this is fun. And then it scrolls sideways. This is what Lady Warboss, I think, was mentioning as the website. That just, it scrolls. It's fun. Like, the design is great. You know, so you've got the ability to, you know, focus on people being comfortable in their natural element. And then whoosh, we scroll here. So you have the at 25 photos sold. So, and there's a beauty gift box. Like, this is fun. So there's community giveaways, and there's creative conversation. So an AMA, which is fun, on a weekly basis. So people are going to have the ability to connect with the founders of the project and, you know, with the people who are creating. And so I gotta say, like, having the ability to connect with the people building the things and learn from their experience instead of having to create those, you know, same learning opportunities on your own, and sometimes, you know, stumbling points, is a really beneficial thing for people, because if someone's already done it, learn from what they've done.
Right.
Yes.
This is amazing. So we've got that, and that's at 25 photos sold. I don't know where we're at yet. I don't know if you know where we're at on the count, but I'm sure we're making progress. And then we scroll some more. So then there's up to 50, which we've lost the photo because we're focusing on the thing. So then there are more giveaways and activities and events and interactions. And so this is really awesome too, because not only will it be with the two of you, but also Jonah, who has been working, you know, kind of on the project behind the scenes a little bit more, perhaps, since he's not doing the photos, not taking the photos, but is doing, if I understand, you know, a lot of the foundational business type aspects. And we may have lost Ray and Matt momentarily. You know, they were having some internet connections. But having a variety of experiences on the roadmap while we wait for them to come back. We've got all of the events here. We'll add them back in. There we go. You're back.
Thank you.
We're back.
We're back.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries. We were scrolling through the roadmap while we were waiting for the reload, which the joys of traveling mean that sometimes your internet is, you know, a little bit less than stellar, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, we
It's
make sure.
part of the adventure that you're on, right? And so we have, like, this is amazing, like having, you know, this full set of, you know, roadmap goals, and having the ability, you know, as I was talking about, interacting with not just you, but also, you know, having Jonah and having the full product team involved in the creation because, from my understanding, he's, had a rather unique role in your team because we've got, the founders, where the model and the photographer and kind of the people who are building the project, and then Jonah is kind of managing the additional aspects. And so
Right.
that would be a definitely an interesting point of view to get as well for people to understand.
Because he's how we started, really. Like, he's been a dear friend of mine now for a few years, so it's really special for him to be the one to help us like actually start and get into the space. And he has been involved with a lot of projects, Got a Cat Gang and the Smile Servers one recently. Like, he definitely knows his stuff. And it's just really, really insightful. He's not what you'd expect from someone who used to play in the NBA. He's a big dork like the rest of us, and who knows who else he's going to bring into these conversations to help the community. And hopefully, as we grow, people want to have recommendations for people who they do want to talk to as well in these sessions, and hopefully we can get those people along for them too. But yeah, he's
good. He's good.
Yeah, he's going to be really great to have in these conversations too.
So he's good. He's actually, his Instagram, he has a Gutter Cat Gang picture, a cat as his picture. So checked him out, and he's like got the official like NFT as his avatar even on Instagram. So.
He's legit. He knows
yes.
what he's doing.
And it's been so fun watching projects like that roll out in this space. So I've been here, actually, it'll be 4 years on Monday, my first NFT purchase. So yeah, I've been around watching the things grow, and so seeing like starting, from there, and seeing how many people now are joining, and how, even though there's been so much adoption in 4 years, like we're still so early. And so having, as you mentioned, like being able to help expand the understanding of Web3 and the opportunities to, the people who it'll impact the most, like that's such an amazing opportunity. And having that mission is, I think, really important for moving the rest of the world into, I would say, more equality and having more access to the resources that, people desperately need. And also,
Yeah,
this is fun. Got distracted by the compass, but like this is perfect because you can be yourself regardless of location and always have your North Star pointing, right?
Yeah.
Very, very good. So here, we'll leave this, and this is a good slide to leave up. So I should ask you, what have I not asked you that you'd like to share with the whale community? Because that's always a fun one.
I think, like, for people who, are also starting out, I think there's no rush. We're all very early into the space, and I feel like the sooner we can break down those barriers and understand that, take your time, look at a bunch of projects, join a bunch of Discords, and be really thorough with, finding your little communities that you enjoy. I think is so important. A few of my friends are just kind of like FOMOing into every hot project, and then they're burnt out in a week because they're just kind of chasing the whitelist or chasing all these things. So I think, like, with this, it's like, just, you can relax. It took us, 4 or 5 months to make this kind of project. So I feel I learned that the hard way, because, like, oh, we got to finish. We're missing out on time to be in the space. But really, it's like we just need to take our time and make sure, our value for our community is right, and that everyone can learn together. And the more people that you can grow within your own community and teach them, like, especially what Whale's done with just upskilling the people who want to be there, that's really valuable. Not only for the community, but for the individual as well, to help them, have an enjoyable experience here.
And I think that's a really important thing to note, is like finding the space that works for you, because there are a whole bunch of spaces. It's countless, the number of communities and the number of projects that are popping up, and you may not resonate with everyone, and that's perfectly okay to say, you know what, this like might be the hype right now, but it's not my thing. And find the places that you feel comfortable and you grow at your own speed, because it's not a one size fits all space. Just like, with the photography, like it's not a one size fits all frame. You're going to have different experiences. We also have a compliment on your website because it's so clean. Like people love your website as we're scrolling through.
That's cool.
It's from the Discord. And Brad is in chat too, also excited about things. Hey, Brad, one of my favorite people. So this is, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about what you guys are building here. Like having not only the amazing imagery, but more than that, like the message and the mission and trying to help people better themselves. That is really, really special. So thank you for doing that. Like, it's like a weird thing to thank a person for, like, but you're doing things that are so meaningful. And I love it. And so having the opportunity to talk to you and to share with the community what it is that you're doing in your mission, I think is really beneficial because people now have another community that they can hop into and join and be able to connect with, and not only get, maybe benefit of learning, photography skills or different approaches, but also just learning acceptance of themselves.
I think that's the key. Like, I hope more people can just be happy with where they're at and the path that they're on, and just have more conversations about how they're going according to their own expectations of themselves, not with people next to them or what other people are doing, but just, enjoying who they are and where they are. And it is very early, like I mentioned, but like we've made a start, which I think is the hardest part, and we're growing, and we're finding people who want to, be in our little community. And it makes us happy that we've already found, 100+ people who like to be in Discord and to hang out with us. And it's really special watching it grow from, essentially zero. So it's a very wholesome space, and I'm really excited to be here, first of all, but also to stay here as well.
That, I think people are really, like when I was sharing the photography earlier, like people were really excited about the imagery, about the descriptions that you have, and about, the good people that you are, because that is really important. I think, as I've mentioned, to find the people that you connect with, that you can build as your support system, that, maybe you're not selling out right away, but the community that you're building is the loyal community that's going to work together to support you and each other and grow together. And that is one of the things that, if you're measuring the long-term success of projects, those are the kind of things that you look for. So you are definitely doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know that we're approaching the hour mark, so I don't want to hold up your time for the rest of the afternoon. But is there, I guess, anything else that we need to share with the community? I'm going to post the Twitter in the Discord again to make sure that people are following there. And, we'll keep an eye on the Discord as well. Let's see, I'll post that link too for anybody who's not yet in. I am those people mostly because I wanted to have the experience of like clicking it while we're on the stream, because if I did it, then I'd be like, oh, you're already in. And I'd be like, oh, yeah. So now that we've done this, I'm in. And now we have Discord. Yay, exciting. So we'll join there. And that's exciting because I had, joined your collectors the other day with the picture. And oh my goodness, the dolphins are magic. And we have people joining the Twitter now, so that's good. Are there other ways that I haven't shared that, we need to keep up with you? I know we've got the Medium. These should all be the places that people can.
I think Discord is hopefully where we can really grow. And it's just more conversational. And I think that's so important. It's more, Discord is more person to person. There's no big social media, engine behind fueling, what's popular and what's not. People can just, I think, come into Discord, and that's going to be the place where we can really, get to know people and understand, I don't know, everyone else's journeys as well, not just ours.
Perfect. Well, then we will definitely keep up with you in the Discord. I'm excited to follow your journey and keep seeing, the project growth as people continue to join your community and learn from the experiences that you've had. And you have so much to offer to the community. So that's something that definitely I think is going to be a huge benefit to the metaverse as a whole.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think perhaps we'll end this stream for now, and we will continue to follow up in the Discord, and we'll follow up on the socials. Everybody who's interested, we've got the I'll link the OpenSea as well for checking out the amazing collection that you've got going there. And we'll follow up there and continue to learn and grow together. Thank you both so much for your time today and for joining the whale community to talk more about your project, the 365 Days of Rae.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you so much for having us.
Thank you. We will see you all later, whale community. Make sure to check out all of their links so that way we can stay in touch, because this is definitely something that I think people will really be able to benefit from and learn and grow here. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.